What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and welcome back to the Rumor Roundup, our weekly series where we cover all the news and rumors that you may have missed over the course of the week. And technically it's Wednesday, but I'm going out of town this weekend for my sister's birthday. I'm taking her to the Newport Aquarium, so maybe I'll bump into some of you guys there somewhere, but I won't be here. So hopefully between now and Sunday, we don't miss some gigantic piece of news where Andrew Garfield comes out and says, hey everybody, I am actually going to be in Spider-Man, and here's everything that's gonna happen in the movie. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Pretty extreme example, but you guys get what I mean. So let's get into our news and start talking about what's happening out there in the world. So first things first, one of the big questions a lot of you guys have been asking is, when is Venom going to meet Spider-Man? When are we gonna finally get Tom Hardy meeting Tom Holland, and we'll get Hard Holland hanging out together? That sounds messed up, but we'll get those characters crossing over in a movie. So some good and bad news on this. The good news, Venom director Andy Serkis came out and said that Venom is going to meet Tom Hardy's Spider-Man. The bad news, we don't know when. He literally said, at some point. And honestly, I understand his rationale here. The stance he took is that if they just had Venom meet Spider-Man right now, that's kind of the big event, right? That's the big thing everybody wants to see. Admittedly, the Venom movies have been really, really good, or at least the first one was really, really good. I know it didn't get the best reception ever, but I enjoyed the first movie. The second one I'm looking forward to. But Spider-Man's got a lot of major villains. There's a lot of anticipation for the Sinister Six, at least some variation of it, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe during Spider-Man No Way Home, potentially even in Doctor Strange 2 or the future of the MCU. And there are villains out there that we haven't seen hide nor hair of in any form or fashion in any of the movies that have been made about Spider-Man. Chameleon, Kraven the Hunter are just a couple of those. Chameleon's especially interesting because that's the first villain that Spider-Man ever fought in the history of his comic book publishing. So the fact that we haven't seen him seems a little strange to me. But Andy Serkis took the approach and said there's a lot of stories to tell about a lot of villains out there, and the fight between Spider-Man and Venom is so anticipated, we can save that, because if we end up introducing a lot of these villains and there's a good reception for them, we might be able to find some way to work them in. And I'm down for that, right? As much as I would love to see a fight between Spider-Man and Venom, not gonna lie, I would kind of love to see Venom on the Sinister Six. And see like a symbiote Sinister Six, right? So like basically Spider-Man versus Venom, and then like some of the Sinister Six roster that we're familiar with, but they all have Venom symbiotes. That would be amazing. Imagine like a Venomized Dr. Octopus, like a Venomized Green Goblin, although technically Green Goblin did become Carnage in the comics. So like the Red Goblin, as he was called, and like a Venomized version of like Kraven the Hunter, or like Electro, although that probably wouldn't work because the symbiotes don't respond well to electricity and fire. Regardless, it'd be cool to see that kind of a thing, right? It'd be cool to see that whole scenario play out. That's pretty far-fetched, but those are the kind of ideas that could potentially come to fruition. So I'm down with Andy Serkis's idea that they kind of want to hold off on Spider-Man versus Venom and give us some more stories involving some of the villains that exist out there in the Spider-Man mythos that can really kind of expand this whole landscape. Now, on our second piece of news here, I know a lot of you guys were huge fans of Marvel Zombies. Dare I say here that the Marvel Zombies episode was probably the most anticipated episode of What If, because it was so different. That's one of the things that I've learned over my time in just watching you all when it comes to your reactions on social media with anything related to comic books, comic book movies, especially when I was running Comics Explained. You guys loved things that were just different, right? Like, hey guys, here's a story where the Incredible Hulk fights Wolverine. Huh. Cool, I mean, I'll watch it. You know, and that video will do 100,000 views. Hey guys, here's a story where the Incredible Hulk kills all the superheroes and becomes the Herald of Galactus. 3 million views like that, right? You guys love just the weird and wonky stories when it comes to stuff. And for the casual movie-going audience that's familiar and loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe up to this point, zombies sound amazing. So it was a really, really cool concept. Well, in light of that, comic book creator Mark Millar, who was technically the first to introduce Marvel Zombies in the Ultimate Fantastic Four comics, although Robert Kirkman, the guy who wrote The Walking Dead, he was the one to actually write the standalone Marvel Zombies series, or at least the good ones anyway. Mark Millar came out and said that there is potentially a live-action Marvel Zombies project in the work. Now, to be honest with you guys, I feel like this was kind of coming ever since the possibility of Marvel Zombies and What If popped up on social media. As soon as that hit, everybody was talking about it. I would go as far as to say it was the one thing everybody was talking about, right? I mean, people were talking about like Chadwick Boseman reprising his role as Black Panther, being able to hear him again, everybody celebrating that. Eric Killmonger, Tony Stark teaming up, the possibilities on what we might see in the show, Agent Carter. But I think far and away, the talking point for the What If series was Marvel Zombies. It's the one thing everybody wanted to see. And I think based on the popularity of just general social media reaction, somebody somewhere at Marvel Studios was kind of like, hey, maybe we should kick around the idea of a possible live action Marvel Zombies thing. Let's wait and see how the episode pans out, see how people respond to it, and if there's a huge thing where everybody loves it, then we can kind of put some feelers out there and just sort of see where things go. Well, if any of this is true, because again, Mark Miller is kind of like, hey, it's a possibility, right? I mean, he came out and said, if my sources are correct, there's a potential project in the works. It would make sense that they would do this, right? A live action Marvel Zombies show or potentially even a movie would be really, really amazing. It'd be really exciting to see because there's a lot of history there to cover. Now, if you guys want to know more about Marvel Zombies, particularly how the whole thing unfolded, I've got the full story video over on Comics Explained, which is essentially all the Marvel Zombies stuff just packed into one video. So hopefully that'll be something you guys are interested in. But I am excited at the prospect of a live action Marvel Zombies show. I just hope they don't AMC that show, right? You guys know what I mean? Like The Walking Dead was great until like season 5, and then it just got bad. A friend of mine had a theory once that said no show should really last any more than 5 seasons because after that, all the shows really just kind of start dropping off, which makes sense. Dexter. So before we get into our last little tidbit of news here about Vincent D'Onofrio playing Kingpin in Hawkeye, let's talk about some gaming stuff. So Vista Chess, who is really a Reddit user, has actually been going through and recreating the entire Star Wars universe galaxy in Minecraft. Now granted, Minecraft is not a universal simulator, right? So you can't travel from one planet to the other in Minecraft. So presumably he's just creating different worlds, each one representing a major world from Star Wars, but it's an enormous undertaking. Now we will post a link to his YouTube channel down in the description. He's only got a couple videos, each one's like 2 minutes long, so not a whole lot to go on there. Vista Chess, you wanna blow up on YouTube, man? Make your videos longer than 10 minutes and upload 3 times a week. You already got the topic covered. Everybody loves Minecraft and your projects are cool. Just let the algorithm take care of the rest. But a bulk of what they've shown is actually available on Reddit. So we'll go ahead and post a link to the Reddit post that highlights a lot of the stuff that they're creating. But overall, it looks amazing. I mean, I know that Minecraft is known for just these insane undertakings, right? The kind of things people have done on Minecraft in world building is really just, it's nothing short of just astounding. The amount of work they put in. I mean, people have recreated entire cities, so like Paris, France, New York City. People have recreated theme parks, so like Disney World, Disneyland, with all the rides that work in their entirety. I mean, just, it's astounding the kind of effort that people put in. I wanna say there's a person who recreated the entire Death Star from episode 4 in Minecraft, which is crazy. Like all the decks and everything work, which is kind of nuts, but it's cool to see people undertaking these just enormous tasks, right? Somebody sits down somewhere and says, I wanna do this. The amount of time, dedication, and effort it takes, especially because this person's a one-man team, they don't have a whole bunch of people working on it, it's just them. It's incredible. That kind of dedication is just really something to be astounded by. But we figured we'd share that with you all because while it's not the biggest piece of news ever, I think it really highlights the kind of cool things that we as people are capable of when it comes to playing the games we love. But on our next piece of news here, the next Call of Duty game coming out in 2022, which normally we wouldn't cover this, but I'm gonna cover it because it's my favorite Call of Duty game of all time, Modern Warfare 2. Ironically enough, Modern Warfare 2 is my favorite game of all time. Black Ops 1 was the game that I broke out in, right? Where I was getting like 4, 5, 6, 7 KDs like almost every game. Like it was nuts. I was so good at Black Ops 2. I'm gonna straight up brag here, right? I'm gonna straight up brag and be like, I was legit in Black Ops 1, right? I was very, very good in Black Ops 1. But Modern Warfare 2 is my favorite game. It was the Call of Duty game that got me into multiplayer. Never played COD 4 multiplayer, but I loved the era of Modern Warfare 2, right? It was so fantastic. Everybody talks about the whole mission of like no Russian, like when they shoot up an airport. I don't care about that. I care about the multiplayer, man. You guys remember the early glitches, right? Where you could run around with a javelin and if somebody killed you, everybody died. Where you had the care package glitch. So if you had like the care package grenade in your hand, you could just run super fast. So like in the early days of COD 4, you'd go on to capture the flag, somebody would get like a care package, and then like they would take it out so they could throw it, they'd capture the flag, and just haul ass back to their point. It was almost impossible to catch them after that. It was cool, right? And I know a lot of you guys who are Call of Duty fans most likely grew up in that era of Modern Warfare 2. The YouTube community was amazing, kind of, but not really, because there were a lot of people who caused drama. But nonetheless, I'm excited to see what this remake is going to be like. And on the topic of remakes, we know we have remakes like Alan Wake coming out. They're removing all the product placement, which is awesome. When are we gonna get remakes of like Dino Crisis or like Parasite Eve? I loved Parasite Eve. When are we gonna get remakes of these games? Because honestly, I know a lot of people seem to be in a kind of fit of rage about the idea that like remakes are coming out as opposed to genuinely new IPs, or just getting like DLC for like GTA 5 instead of getting GTA 6. But honestly, a lot of these games that are being remade from the 1990s, it's nostalgia feels for me, right? So I give a pass. I give a pass to this and I say, hey, it's remakes and remasters of games that I grew up with modern day graphics. I'm really excited to see what those games look like. I'm really hyped for it. Alan Wake is probably one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm excited to see what that game looks like. But I'm curious, leave a comment down below. If you could have any game from your youth remade on modern day next gen consoles with modern day graphics, which game would you pick? But having said that, let's get into our final piece of news here. Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. Now, Vincent D'Onofrio is one of these really interesting characters, right? When it comes to his kind of reveal of the fact that he's doing stuff, he's always been super cryptic over the years. Vincent D'Onofrio would never deny something, but he would never confirm something. He would always just kind of leave these tweets out there that is like, hey guys, I'm returning for Daredevil, but I'm not, but possibly I am. Do you think I should? I don't know. I guess you'll have to wait and see to find out. It was never any definitive answer, right? It's like asking a person the question and all they do is answer your question with another question, right? Like, hey, Vincent D'Onofrio, are you gonna play Kingpin and Hawkeye? Well, I don't know. Do you think I am? That's basically what it turns into, right? Now, the reason why this has garnered so much attention recently is because Vincent D'Onofrio has kind of gone through and just started liking a whole bunch of tweets related to Hawkeye. And while that doesn't really confirm anything, the fact that he hasn't really had any involvement in the MCU up to this point, and the fact that he hasn't really seemed to show any particular favoritism towards any of the MCU projects until Hawkeye has caught a lot of people's attention, especially because we don't really know who the main villain's going to be. We know that Hawkeye has basically walked away from his role in the Avengers. We know he's training Kate Bishop to become the new Hawkeye. Kate Bishop's untrained, untested, really seems to have raw talent, which means they're not going to be facing off against gigantic threats. They're likely going to be facing off against more homegrown threats. And if that's the case, I can't think of a better person to pick than Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. He's got the forces, he's got the wherewithal, he's got the ability to take on someone like Hawkeye, right? Just his physical stature is enough that he's just an imposing guy. And a lot of people have been wanting to see Vincent D'Onofrio return as Kingpin in the MCU. Now, truth to tell, if Vincent D'Onofrio was gonna come back, I would prefer that he come back as either a character in the Spider-Man movies or as a villain facing off against Daredevil as kind of a relaunched, remade sequel, whatever it is, to the Netflix Daredevil shows. But having said that, I don't mind seeing Vincent D'Onofrio return as Kingpin in any form or fashion, because let's be honest with ourselves, guys. Let's just nod our heads and say, yes, Rob, you're correct. Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin was amazing. He was so awesome. I loved his speech at the end of Daredevil where he's like, I am the ill intent. I love that whole thing, right? It was so cool. I love that concept for his character. And the reality is no one could have played the Kingpin better than him. And to have him return in the MCU would just kind of go towards the idea that all's kind of feeling right with the Marvel Cinematic Universe world. So again, let me know what you guys think about Vincent D'Onofrio potentially coming back, actually returning as Kingpin. It's the first real indication we've seen from anybody that it could actually be happening, so it makes sense that fans would be super hyped up about it. But let me know what you guys think. With that being said, we're gonna bring this episode to an end. Again, fingers crossed we don't miss out on any insane news between now and Sunday, and we will catch you all later. Peace. 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 Double peace.